Hi, hello. It is Josh Bowe of Pod Maverick and co-editor of MavsMoneyball.com. Coming to you early. Kirk scheduled this to start at 10:30, but when the Mavericks win by 29 points against a crappy team, we are ready to get going. As you can tell, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not joined by my normal co-host, Kirk Henderson, as he needed a night off with the newborn. So very graciously, staffer Matt Martinez, his first year with MavsMoneyball.com, his first. I think this is this your first podcast with us, Matt?
Second.
Second. Okay. Well, thank you. First one was me, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know you pitched in for me one night, and you've potted with Kirk. So happy to have you on. Thank you for joining. You've been
happy to be here.
Of course, yeah. You've been doing a ton of awesome work for us on the site. For the last month, if you guys have been reading MavsMoneyball.com, you have seen Matt's name a lot over the last month. So, we really appreciate Matt's contributions to the site, and thanks for joining me tonight. Mavericks beat the Trailblazers 126-97, 29-point game. They were up by as many as 38 in the first half. I mean, this game was basically over after the first quarter for the most part. They had a 10-point lead after the first, and then in the second, they outscored the Blazers 43-22, and then it was just a matter of just get this thing over the finish line and just run out some clock. Mavericks respond after the very disappointing loss to the Utah Jazz. Turns out being at home is really nice. If you've been on the road a lot, they played 3 straight on the road. They played a lot more on the road than they played at home. So the stars kind of aligned. The Mavericks typically respond well after bad losses. It was the last game of a road trip, first game at home. Luka responds after bad games. Portland's stinky. They're also injured as well. They didn't have some of their main pieces. And they're the team that, even with their main pieces, they're not a very great team. So the stars aligned for a butt whooping, and that's definitely what the Mavericks delivered. Matt, do you have any initial thoughts on the game before we really dive into it?
Blowout wins. Blowout wins over Portland have come at a very high cost this year, haven't they?
Boy, they really have. We'll start. We'll talk more about this in depth toward the latter half of the podcast, but we have to kind of get it out of the way. Derek Lively sprained his left ankle in the third quarter, the same ankle that he hurt the last time the Mavericks played Portland, which is pretty unfortunate. He left the game immediately, went to the locker room, had to be helped off. It was not great sight, but we'll see. Ankle injuries are one of those things where they can look really, really ugly and it'd be okay. Maybe not miss that much time. So sometimes they look worse than they really are, but they could also be pretty bad. If it's a high ankle sprain, he could be out for a few games. So that stinks. And then
do you remember?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you remember how many games he missed the first time he sprained his ankle?
I can look that up real quick. It looks like he left. Let's see, from the 16th to the 20th. He got injured against Portland on December 16th. Came back on Christmas Day. So I'm doing this the really hard way. So let me see.
4.
So yeah, it looks like he missed. What is that? Man, I should be able to do this faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 4 games. Sorry, you had it. You had it earlier than me. So he missed 4 games, but it is the same ankle. So hopefully, it's not any worse. So 4 games, maybe he misses another 4 games. We'll see. Then, not that much longer after, Grant Williams gets hurt. I'm going to be honest, I did not see the play. I was up away from my couch, not looking at my TV, and I heard it. Like I was in the kitchen, and I heard that he got hurt. I didn't actually see it. Matt, do you know?
So
Did
I
you watch
just
that?
I thought it was odd on the replay of when Grant Williams went down, because it seemed like the Portland player in a loose ball scenario, like kind of cut out Grant Williams' legs from underneath him, and it didn't look like the ankle had much contact. It's just that he sort of tumbled over that Portland player and then was on the ground and then started grabbing at the right ankle, I believe. But he got up and ran off immediately to the jogged off immediately to the locker room. He did not require help. Lively did.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know what? I said we were going to talk about that through the second half. We're
Right.
talking about it now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's. I mean, the Blazers stink. I mean, it's really good that the Mavericks got a win. We're not trying to downplay the win at all, but the Mavericks have been kicking the crap out of bad teams for most of the season. Of course, Utah game notwithstanding, but hey, you play 82 games, you're going to run into a bad game every now and then. So there wasn't much to learn from this game because the Mavericks took care of business, aside from the fact that they did what they were supposed to do. So we're
it's not.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not like you're on pins and needles. Like, oh, is Kyrie going to get right in this game? Like, Kyrie is going to be Kyrie. It was good to see 29 points and 9 boards after what happened against Utah. But that wasn't something I was concerned about going in or anything.
Right. So yeah, the injuries end up being the biggest story from this game. We've been looking for updates. I know Matt's been looking for updates in our Slack. We're gonna get a news post on Mavs Moneyball about it. It looks like Kidd is doing his post game presser right now. His update was basically confirming that they were ankle sprains. Said both of them were mild and that they're getting treatment, and then they'll see tomorrow. So obviously, there's not much they can learn tonight. If any of y'all have ever sprained an ankle, you don't really know how bad it is until you wake up the next morning. You try to contain the swelling and you see what it looks like. So, but the fact that he said mild, that's some pretty good news considering, I thought Lively's looked, I mean, he really rolled. I mean, he really rolled it. Like it bent pretty good.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I imagine we will probably get a better injury timeline sometime tomorrow during practice from the reporters, but mild is probably the best we're going to get from Kidd. And that's probably the best news Mavs fans can hope for right now. So we'll see. Have to monitor it. Thankfully for the Mavericks, they play 7 straight at home, so no travel. Makes it maybe easier to rehab and come back maybe faster. Thankfully for the Mavericks, they play Portland again on Friday. So even if there's no reason, I would just say right now, there's 0 reason for Lively and Grant, even if they feel like they could tough it out. 0 reason for them to play against Portland. Then you play Sunday against Minnesota. Obviously, you'd like to have them available for that game. But then Tuesday against Memphis. So, if they missed 3, I'm just spitballing. If they missed the next 3 games, the Mavericks could theoretically go 2-1 in them, not necessarily miss them all too much. And then starting next Thursday, January 11th, that's when the schedule really turns up. They play New York, New Orleans twice, Lakers, Golden State, Boston, Phoenix. And that's a stretch of games that you would certainly like them to be available for, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. I'm not an injury expert, but yeah, it was a big downer. Especially it was a weird, Lively's was so weird in that Luka threw him a bad pass, which it's okay. Luka's allowed to throw bad passes, and it just happened to go at his feet, and Scoot Henderson went for the ball and went through Lively like that. It was just bad luck, just rotten luck. I know some people are really mad at the Blazers for playing recklessly, and I can understand that. They were a young team. They were kind of just they were flailing their bodies around tonight. I mean, did that part bother you at all, or are you just kind of it's just part of the game?
The thing. I mean, we were talking about it in our Mavs Moneyball Slack almost around the moment he went down. Okay, let's start getting people out. So yeah, it's. I guess it is a part of the game, but it's this is as many coincidences as an X-Files episode, as far as 3 games against Portland, 3 key injuries, because
Yeah.
but yeah, no, you hate to see it. You hate to see it even more in a blowout. You hate to see it times 3 when it's Lively needs minutes. Lively needs to develop, and uh, yeah, hate to see it, but you know,
Yeah. And the
I guess
timing sucks. Like injuries are never good, but Kyrie gets hurt and Exum emerges as this really quality starter, has an awesome month. And basically you're just like, man, can't wait to see, if you're a Mavs fan, you're just like, I can't wait to see what, this version of Exum looks like with Kyrie and Luka and Lively, because before Kyrie got hurt, Exum was barely part of the rotation. And then he gets a chance with Kyrie hurt, solidifies himself as one of the 5 best players on the team, gets a starting nod. Kid commits to Exum being a starter when Kyrie comes back, and you're like, all right, I can't wait to see how this looks because I haven't played that much together. And Exum literally gets hurt Kyrie's first game back, and then Lively gets hurt Kyrie's second game back. And it's just like, I mean, obviously injuries stink no matter what, but you're just like, man, just the fact that they're not, they're kind of all overlapping with each other. It's just unfortunate that.
are we ever going to know, like, what could have been? Is this going to be is what could have been going to be the question that we keep asking over and over and over again? It just seems like we've been snake bitten with injuries.
I know that's unfortunate, and we're about a month away from the trade deadline. You would like to kind of know. I mean, I think the Mavericks know for the most part what kind of team they have, but to make those kind of decisions at the trade deadline, they want to probably see their 4 best, their 4 most productive players who are Lively, Exum, Kyrie, and Luka play a lot of minutes together. Like they probably want to
Right.
see what that looks like so they can make better informed decisions about the future of the roster. So that's that just, it just complicates things when you don't want it to be. So that part stinks, and I don't know what else to say about it other than it really stinks. Thankfully, the game, no salt on the wound in terms of like the Mavericks losing. They take care of business, one of their biggest, margin of victories of the season. Um, they really like playing Portland and Utah. Aside from that last game, they beat Utah by 50. They've handled Portland pretty well. Um, this game was the Kyrie and Luka show. I mean, the two combined for, what is that? 60. Am I looking at this right? 60.
70 and 3/4, right?
70 and 3/4, which is absurd. Luka had 41
Right.
and 31 minutes. Kyrie had 29 and 29 minutes.
Yeah.
They put the game over in a hurry. I thought it was cool to see. They didn't do it a lot, but there was some like action, like Kyrie screening for Luka or Luka screening for, like, they did a little bit more together than instead of my
Hmm.
turn, your turn stuff. I thought the big thing, Luka doing this, coming back from a big game, is like whatever. He does this all the time. Not to discount Luka, like he was incredible. I mean, 41 points in 3/4
Right.
is outrageous. But Kyrie kind of had the biggest question mark in terms of, like, there's been some talk about his how passive he's been with the ball a little bit. Even when he's not playing with Luka, like you
Hmm.
understand a little bit when he's on the floor with Luka, but there's been moments where he's been running bench units and like letting Tim Hardaway Jr. dribble around and shoot whatever shots he wants, and you're like, what's going on here? I mean, I don't know if this was conveyed to him. I think Jason Kidd talked pregame about telling Kyrie to be more aggressive, and a message received loud and clear. I thought Kyrie was very aggressive in transition, especially. Like he's so good in
Those
transition.
Man, those pull-up 3-pointers are just so pretty.
I know that those fast break transition three, like he might be, other than like Steph, like his pull up transition 3-point game, like every time he takes one of those, I think they're going in. Like the
Yeah.
way that he's able to go full speed and then basically stop on a dime and get the right balance. Like he's always balanced. Like he's not
Yeah.
off kilter. Like
Mhm.
it's just incredible the way he's able to go full speed and then snap right into a 3-pointer, which is like really hard to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was
Yeah.
awesome.
You love to see it. What did he end up? The last I saw, he was 4 of 8 from 3. Was that the final line from 3?
Yep, 4 of 8 from 3, 10 of 19 from the floor, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 9
And it
rebounds. Yeah.
and specifically from 3. I mean, it wasn't a beautiful game on any front against Utah, but he was 2 of 3 from 3 then. So I mean, he's shooting the ball well. In his first 2 games back, and that bodes well if and when the schedule gets a little tougher.
Yeah, because his 3-point shot was a little wonky, I think, to start the season. So he's been shooting the 3 a little bit better. I mean, he only got to play 3 December games, but yeah, shooting what? He's 6 of 11 from 3 in 2 games. He shot 42% in November before he got hurt. So yeah, he's on the upswing with his shot. Luka was great. I mean, kind of did whatever he wanted. It was very, 2 things were really cool to see with Luka: 14 free throw attempts, which we know that's been an issue for him in terms of getting the contact and getting the whistle that he wants. Officials seem to, we don't have to go into the Luka's vendetta against the refs, but it's definitely a little bit harder for him due to maybe some of the way he interacts with the officials. So it was good to see him get some calls, get to the line. Also, he had 9 shots in the restricted area. He was 7 of 9 at the rim for the most part, and he has not gotten to the rim almost at all this season. He's average, he's got a career low rim rate, and it's far and away a career low. Like it's not even close to any of his other previous seasons. I thought there were multiple reasons for that. The way teams are guarding him, his health, maybe his burst to get to the rim is a little off. He's conserving himself because his injuries that he's endured in his first 3 or 4 seasons in the league have come with him going into the paint. So you wonder maybe he's just trying to keep the tread on his tires for a full season and not wear himself out going to the rim so much. But he did it tonight. He was awesome. So 9 shots at the rim, 14 free throw attempts. That's real good Luka. Like Luka's
Yeah,
always
it
pretty
is.
good, but that's like peak Luka.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be sure to mention. I believe I can fly. He dunked tonight.
First dunk for Luka.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
yeah,
He
yeah,
he could have laid it in too. He went for it.
yeah, yeah. You could tell he wanted to shake that off, and I don't know. I know we've talked about it several times. Like, has he dunked yet this year? But you start to wonder, like, does he think about things like that?
Oh, I mean, if he doesn't think about things like that, the locker room definitely probably gives him a fair amount of
Oh, right.
grief.
Yeah.
They know that number, I'm sure, in practice, and they like to talk during practice about it. So I'm sure he knew that. So Luka was great. Lively was pretty good before he got hurt. He didn't score, but like he had 3 blocks and 2 steals. Funny enough, like it's actually like not much. There wasn't much else kind of going on offensively for the Mavericks outside of Kyrie and Luka until garbage time. Tim Hardaway Jr. hit a couple threes. It was good to see him break out of a slump. But really, they only had 2. They had 4 guys in double figures,
Now,
and
who was the fourth?
Hardy got to
Okay.
11, but Hardy's
Yeah.
was all in garbage time. So like
Hmm.
when the game was, when the real players were on the floor, they only had 3 players in double figures, which usually, if you follow the Mavericks for a long time in the Luka era, you're like, oh God, was it Luka just doing everything and no one really? Well, this time the other people didn't really need to do anything because Kyrie was also awesome. So, I mean, they shot 50% from the floor as a team. They shot 43% as a team on threes. So, I mean, offensively, they were great. Defensively, they had 8 blocks and 11 steals. Did you know that while watching the game, Matt?
I was keeping track of that because I was trying to find stats to include in the stat post that I'm going to write about this game. So I didn't know the final numbers, but yes. So stat news, those are going to be like the second or third most on those stats in a game for the Mavs this season. What did you say? It was how many
11,
blocks and how many?
11 steals, 8 blocks.
I think the season high is 12 steals in a game for the Mavs.
Yeah, I wonder that's got to be, stocks combined steals and blocks. I mean, that's 19. I mean, that's got to be up there. I don't have the numbers up for me, but for combined steals and blocks, that's got to be up there.
Yeah,
I mean, Portland stinks. They lead the league in turnovers, so like, you don't want
right.
to think that the Mavericks have turned the corner defensively, but they did what they needed to do. Like they took care of this bad team. They pressured them. They were aggressive. They didn't sit back on their heels, and they forced the issue, which is always nice because I think I don't know. At least for me, sometimes like I understand that the Mavericks roster is limited with defenders, but at the very least, sometimes I'm like, you just play a little bit more aggressive. Like, don't kind of let them come to you. Like, just go to them and force the issue. I thought they did a great job on that side of the floor doing executing that tonight.
And that's interesting because what you just said, that was something that they were talking about on the broadcast, specifically in relation to Lively. He would the announcers were saying that Kid was talking to Lively about, we don't mind you getting into a little bit more foul trouble. Like, go out there and be aggressive.
Yeah, that's right. That was something I noticed earlier in the season for sure. Sometimes you could tell watching Lively that at times he's very much aware of the foul thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of lays off a little bit at the rim. And it's like, okay, if you have 4 fouls, I get it, but he would do that with like 1 foul in the third quarter, and it's like you could, yeah. So yeah, I thought that was good of the broadcast to mention that, and good of Kid to kind of talk about that because that's definitely needed. And Lively had 2 steals and 3 blocks, so also message
Yeah.
received loud and clear
Yeah.
in 19 minutes. So like very aggressive defensively. But otherwise, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of things to talk about. And, it's Luka Kyrie good, injuries bad, and they took care of business. I mean, is there any, what other thoughts do you kind of ran across your mind watching that?
I mean, you can't really take anything much away from the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, uh, yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot in this one, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure how much more is going to be in Friday's game.
Yeah.
If we are without two key players, then how much closer does it become? Do Kyrie and Luka have to play 4 quarters instead of 3? Maybe. I mean, if that's the only consequence of that, I guess that's fine. But uh, you know, I guess the other thing is yeah, usually when you play 2 in a row against a team, even if you are the better team, somehow or another it ends up being a split. We do not need a split in these 2 games. Like we better go 2-0 in these 2.
Yeah, for sure. Because the schedule ramps up significantly after this. Like we mentioned, the slate, they play Minnesota, they play the Lakers, they play Golden State, they play Phoenix, they play the Knicks, and they play the Pelicans twice. So you gotta bank these. Thankfully, the Mavericks have been pretty good at taking care of business this season. Like they've been beating up on the bottom 10 teams of the league. Most of their losses have been against some of the better teams. Again, Cleveland lost to Cleveland without their three of their best players, losing to Utah by a bunch of points. I understand, but for the most part, their losses have been to some of the better teams in the league. So they usually do take care of business. So I expect Friday, even without Lively, even without Grant, to go pretty smoothly. But yeah, I don't, I'm not sure what the map, with Lively out, that's probably the next storyline is I think Rashawn Holmes is away from the team right now for personal reasons. So that's why he didn't play. Um, they don't have another big besides Dwight Powell if Holmes is out and Lively's out. So I'm curious if Lively is out and if both of those guys are out for a stretch of games. What Kid does with the big rotation is going to be curious. Like presumably Dwight Powell is going to start again, but then after that, like, is it Grant Williams as a small ball 5? Is it more minutes for Omax Prosper, who isn't really part of the rotation, so it'd be kind of crazy for him to just kind of vault into it. Although I did like his energy in his 8 minutes tonight, but again, it's garbage time. They don't, are they gonna try to sign someone like temporarily, or is it Markieff Morris gonna get more time? He's been kind of in and out of the rotation. Like, I'm just very, what do you think? What do you think is maybe the best options here for the Mavericks to kind of get through whatever stretch of games Lively potentially misses?
What was that 1 or 2 game stretch? Was it the Rockets? Was it the Clippers? Where we went small
Yeah.
and it kind of looked good.
With Grant Williams at the 5.
Yes. I'm not saying you can do that like as your default mode, but some of that is some of those small ball lineups are probably in play for the next 2 or 3 games. I mean, you're gonna have to white knuckle it with Dwight Powell increasing his minutes, and I guess I'll be looking forward to see. Do you know, is the Holmes away from the team personal reasons, going to continue, or was this just one? Or
I don't think we know that yet. So that's another thing we'll have to figure out. I haven't really seen a report. I didn't really know. I mean, they mentioned on the broadcast. I didn't really know going into the game, which should probably check the injury report every now and then, but I didn't really see it. So I'm not sure. But yeah, if Holmes is back, that makes things a little cleaner. They can just roll with Powell and Holmes if they need to. But yeah, they've been trying the Grant Williams small ball 5, like you said. It's looked okay in spurts. It's just, it's tough with the way Grant's playing.
right, and there is a Minnesota game looming, and you absolutely can't do that there.
No,
in that game.
And they're actually, they're playing some of the better team. If Lively is hurt for some of these games that are coming up, I mean, it's hard to go small against New York or New Orleans or the Lakers. It's going to be hard to get away with that. So they really need, if as long as everything's okay with Holmes, they need him back as soon as they can. Because rolling with Powell and then maybe Grant as your big platoon against Anthony Davis and LeBron, against Zion, against New York, who has Julius Randle,
right?
That might be tough, but
yeah,
we'll see. That's really, it's a shame to talk so much about the injuries, but it really did feel like the most noteworthy thing that happened in this game. But thankfully, the Mavericks took care of business. I don't have many more thoughts. We've been talking for about 30 minutes. Mavericks win by 29 points. Matt, do you have any closing thoughts, or do you think we've hit everything we need to?
Man, Luka can drag this thing for 2 or 3 games. We've seen that happen for 5.5 years now. So if that's ultimately what's going to happen, if we can tread water until ankles feel better, that might be what you see. Go get one on Friday, and then hold on to your butts after that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll be here at Pod Maverick, and we'll also be here at Mavs Moneyball. We'll be writing all about these games, and it's going to be an interesting stretch for sure. At least they're at home. They got 6 more in a row at home, so that definitely helps. So, Matt, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you kind of pitching in, kind of last second asking you earlier today. So, thanks so much for joining me. I had fun, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. No problem. I had fun too.
Of course. Kirk will be back whenever he's back. We got to give him his time with his newborn whenever he needs it. So we'll see. But I should be back for Friday night's game against these same Blazers teams. At this point, the Mavericks might need to ask if the Texas Legends can play that game, because at the rate these starters are getting injured against Portland, like don't play Luka or Derek Jones on Friday, maybe, because maybe they're the next ones to get hurt. I don't know.
Right.
But I'll be here, and we'll have stuff on the site in the meantime. And so for Pod Maverick After Dark, Matt Martinez, thanks for joining me. I'm Josh Bowe. Mavericks beat the Portland Trailblazers 126-97, and we will talk to you guys later.
Have a good one.